Bikini Bottom, a peaceful underwater town, or so it seems. But when you take a closer look, there's chaos lurking beneath the surface. Who's really in charge of this mess? Is it the mayor? The mighty King Neptune? Or could it be someone as unexpected as Patrick? And why does the city feel like it's falling apart with crime and corruption at every corner? In today's video, we're diving deep into the murky waters of Bikini Bottom's government. We're going to uncover the true puppet masters behind this dysfunctional town. Trust me, you'll never look at Bikini Bottom the same way again. Alright, now that we've set the stage, let's tackle the big question. Who's in charge of Bikini Bottom? On the surface, it seems like an easy answer. After all, there's an official mayor with a complete sash and glasses, and she shows up at all the right events, parades, ribbon cuttings, the occasional award ceremony. But here's the thing, when Bikini Bottom delves into total chaos, which, let's face it, happens at least once per episode, where is she? Off dry cleaning her sash? Getting her glasses prescription checked? Who knows? What we do know is that she's more of a ceremonial leader than an actual decision maker. When the chum hits the fan, she's nowhere to be found. And then there's King Neptune. Now this guy's got power. He's the ruler of the sea. But does he really govern Bikini Bottom? Not really. Neptune's more interested in throwing tantrums over his trident, or battling for title of most majestic beard in the ocean, than in handling any government affairs. It's like he's the ruler of the sea, but Bikini Bottom, that's not even on his radar. His sporadic appearances usually involve him flexing his powers for personal drama rather than sorting out issues like, why are half the buildings on fire today? And what about Triton, his son? You'd think there'd be a line of succession, some sense of duty to the underwater masses. But honestly, Triton is as checked out of politics as Patrick is from reality. The guy's more interested in defying his dad than actually, ruling. So while Neptune and Triton may be powerful figures in theory, when it comes to Bikini Bottom, they're about as effective as Plankton is at stealing the Krabby Patty formula. Now let's consider the idea of a higher government, like a president, or some other form of a larger political oversight. Does Bikini Bottom even have one? We never see anything resembling a federal government in the show, and it's almost like Bikini Bottom exists in its own little bubble. Maybe it's a sovereign state, completely isolated from the rest of the world, where jellyfish might have more political clout than any elected official. The closest thing we have to a structured government might be the jellyfish elders, which, now that I think about it, would probably make a more competent leadership team than anything we've seen so far. But what if, and hear me out, the person really in charge of Bikini Bottom is someone we'd never expect. Someone who blends in so well that they've been hiding in plain sight this whole time. What if Patrick Star, the lovable dim-witted best friend of SpongeBob, is actually the mastermind running the show? I know, Patrick can barely remember his own name on a good day. But what if that's the perfect cover? Let's think about it. Patrick's always around during the weirdest, most critical moments in the town's history. He's been a temporary king, briefly, but still. He's held various jobs despite his complete incompetence, and even took charge of the town's telephones at one point. Maybe Patrick's idiocy is actually his greatest strength. After all, who would suspect the guy who once forgot how to eat a sandwich of being the secret ruler of Bikini Bottom? Let's even take it one step further. Remember the episode where Patrick's inner machinations are revealed to be an enigma? The dude's literally thinking about a milk carton tipping over, and we all just laugh it off. But what if that's code for something bigger? What if Patrick is actually orchestrating everything from the shadows, letting the town spiral into chaos while he kicks back with a Krabby Patty and a smile? Every time he says something that makes absolutely no sense, maybe he's just pulling the strings in his own bizarre way. And then there's the chaos of Bikini Bottom itself. This is a town where jellyfish can take over the streets. Chum bucket rivalries escalate into town-wide feuds. And the entire population is apparently okay with a sponge flipping burgers being the most reliable member of the community. Maybe Patrick's involvement in all this chaos isn't just coincidence. Maybe he's subtly nudging things along, whether intentionally or not. After all, if Patrick is the secret ruler, chaos would be his natural state. Everything falls apart around him, but he remains untouched, unfazed, like a bizarre Zen master of underwater pandemonium. What makes Patrick such an interesting suspect is he's always smack dab in the middle of the madness, but nothing ever really seems to affect him. He's immune to the consequences that hit everyone else. When Bikini Bottom is crumbling in disaster, Patrick just floats through life as if nothing is wrong. It's almost like he's insulated from the calamity, like someone who's always 2 steps ahead without even trying. Maybe he's not a ruler in the traditional sense, but more of a puppet master, generally guiding the chaos to unfold exactly as he pleases. And let's not forget, Patrick is no stranger to the leadership role. Remember when he temporarily became king? Sure, the reign was short-lived, but hey, who's to say he didn't pick up a few tricks along the way? The show often plays him off as a fool, but every now and then, we catch a glimpse of a Patrick who knows exactly what he's doing. So, is Patrick the secret ruler of Bikini Bottom? I know it sounds ridiculous, but in a town as weird as this, maybe he's exactly the kind of leader that fits. Unpredictable, chaotic, and somehow always coming out unscathed. It might be the perfect combination for keeping this town from completely falling apart. Of course, Patrick isn't the only suspect. We still have the mayor, Neptune, and the possibility of some hidden government pulling the strings. But maybe that's the point. No one is fully in charge, and that's why Bikini Bottom is such a beautiful disaster. It's a place where chaos reigns supreme, and perhaps that's exactly how it's meant to be. But before we dive into what's really going on in Bikini Bottom, I want to hear from you. Who do you think is pulling the strings in this chaotic town? Drop your theories in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button so you don't miss out. Yep, we're still here. Just waiting for you to hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get back to it. Now that we've pondered who's in charge, let's focus on the burning question. What's actually happening in Bikini Bottom? This place isn't just a quirky underwater town, it's an absolute circus. Buildings are always collapsing, jellyfish are staging uprisings, and crime? Don't even get me started. If you've ever taken a closer look, it seems like Bikini Bottom is in a constant state of low-level chaos. And while SpongeBob is busy flipping burgers, the town around him is falling apart. Sometimes, literally. Take the crime problem, for example. Bikini Bottom is home to a suspiciously high number of criminals. I mean, there's Plankton, who attempts Grand Theft Burger on a daily basis. But he's just the tip of the iceberg. Look at the rest of the citizens. Half of them seem to be one Krabby Patty short of a combo meal. You've got a dirty bubble wreaking havoc, Man Ray escaping from his villainous past, and don't forget that guy who stole SpongeBob's ice cream in the No Weenies Allowed episode. Crime seems to not only be frequent, but almost normalized in Bikini Bottom, as if everyone's just used to the town being one step away from total anarchy. And what about the infrastructure? If you thought the roads in your town were bad, Bikini Bottom has it beat. Every other episode, some building is getting demolished, either by a rampaging sea creature or some bizarre accident. Half the time, these catastrophes seem to be caused by SpongeBob or Patrick. And let's not forget the time Squidward blew up Bikini Bottom with just his clarinet playing. How do you even insure a property in a place like that? Honestly, it feels like the residents are living in a permanent game of underwater Jenga, just waiting for the next brick to fall. Then there's the issue of general public safety. Where are the protections for the citizens? Sure, you've got the police, but we'll get to them in the next section. For now, just consider the sheer volume of things that could go wrong at any moment. You've got jellyfish swarms that can shut down an entire section of the town, a giant worm that once threatened to eat the entire city, and let's not forget the wild animals that casually roam through the streets. One day it's a rampaging sea bear, the next it's a dirty bubble tearing through downtown. Yet, despite all this, no one in Bikini Bottom seems all that concerned. It's as if the chaos has become background noise. The citizens just keep going about their business, completely oblivious to the destruction around them. It's almost like they've accepted that living in Bikini Bottom comes with a side of crazy, and they're totally okay with it. Maybe that's the most insane part of all. No matter how bad things get, everyone just keeps going. As if tomorrow will be another perfectly normal day. Spoiler alert, it won't. So what's going on in Bikini Bottom? A whole lot of chaos, a little bit of destruction, and more than a few criminals roaming the streets. But for the citizens of this wacky underwater town, that's just business as usual. Alright, now that we've established that Bikini Bottom is a complete dumpster fire, where are the brave men and women tasked with keeping the peace? Enter the Bikini Bottom Police Force, or as I like to call them, the most ineffective police department this side of the Pacific. You've seen them, right? They show up every now and then, flashing their sirens and waving their batons around, but when it comes to actually stopping crime, well, let's just say they're about as useful as a jellyfish net in a whirlpool. Take Plankton, for instance. The guy literally tries to steal the Krabby Patty formula every other day. You'd think after the 100th attempt, the police would have at least set up a stakeout or something. But no, Plankton continues his crime spree with barely a slap on the wrist. And don't even get me started on their handling of larger scale threats. Remember when Bikini Bottom was terrorized by the dirty bubble? Or when Man Ray wreaked havoc? The police were nowhere to be seen. Maybe they were busy writing tickets for jaywalking sea snails. Who knows? What's even more baffling is when the police do show up. They often make things worse. Case and point, the infamous Miss Puff incident. where they not only failed to catch SpongeBob, but also ended up getting stuck in the chaos themselves. Honestly, it's like they're just there for comedic relief rather than protecting the town. Their approach to law enforcement seems to be more about maintaining a presence rather than doing anything productive. The incompetence of Bikini Bottom's police force might be funny to watch, but it raises some serious questions. Why is the town so poorly defended? Are the police underfunded, undertrained, or are they just plain lazy? Maybe it's a combination of all three. Either way, it's no wonder this town is always teetering on the edge of disaster. And yet, somehow, despite their inefficiency, Bikini Bottom soldiers on. Maybe the police aren't meant to solve anything, but merely coexist with it, like everyone else in the town. They just try to get through the day without being stung by jellyfish or crushed by falling debris. In a way, they're the perfect reflection of the town they're supposed to protect. Chaotic, unpredictable, and in the end, just doing the best they can in a world that makes no sense. Let's shift our attention to the mayor of Bikini Bottom, the person you'd expect to be in charge of keeping this whole underwater circus in check. You've seen her around. Glasses, a sash that practically screams, "I'm the boss here," and an air of authority that lasts precisely as long as it takes for something to go wrong, which is, about 3 seconds. But here's the thing. For someone with mayor in her title, she doesn't seem to actually do anything. In fact, calling her a figurehead is probably too generous. She's more like a decorative coral reef at a fancy event. Looks important, but ultimately just here for show. The mayor of Bikini Bottom might as well just be a cardboard cutout. Sure, she shows up at parades, speeches, and whatever passes for government meetings down there, but when disaster strikes, and it always does, she's nowhere to be found. It's almost as if her strategy for governance is to close her eyes, plug her ears, and hope the chaos just goes away. And if you're waiting for her to step in and actually fix something, don't hold your breath. Or, do, considering we're underwater. The most action we've seen from the mayor is her grandstanding at public events. Oh sure, she'll come and smile for the cameras, wave at the jellyfish, and cut a ribbon or two. But the minute someone mentions the escalating crime rates or the fact that half the town's buildings are in ruins, she's suddenly got an urgent appointment with the hairdresser. Or a sea cucumber, who knows? It's like the moment things get real, she's got a built-in exit stage left plan. And it's not just her vanishing act that's the problem. It's also her complete lack of initiative. Look, I'm not expecting a superhero in a stash, but could she at least pretend to have a plan? There are days when Bikini Bottom looks like it's auditioning for a disaster sci-fi film. And where's my beloved mayor? Oh right, probably debating what color ribbon to use at the next opening ceremony. Dang, if only leadership was measured by the ability to dodge responsibility. One of the best examples of her ineffectiveness is how she handles, or more accurately doesn't handle, Plankton's criminal antics. How is it that a tiny green menace can try to steal the most famous recipe in town repeatedly, and the mayor is just fine with leaving it all up to SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs to solve? You'd think after the 75th attempt to steal the Krabby Patty formula, she'd, invest in better security measures, or at the very least issue a public statement? But no. Her solution? Let SpongeBob keep flipping burgers and hope Plankton gets tired. And don't even get me started on her relationship with the police force. It's like she's the captain of a sinking ship, and her crew's solution is to throw water back into the ocean. Every time something goes wrong, she deflects the responsibility, passing the buck to an already overworked and hilariously incompetent police department. At this point, it's not governance. It's a game of not my problem, and the mayor is a world champion. Now, let's be fair. Maybe the mayor wants to do something, but she's just as overwhelmed as everyone else in town. I mean, how do you even begin to govern a place where jellyfish can launch full-scale invasions and giant worms threaten to eat the entire populace? Or maybe an angry blowfish has turned the boating school into a public hazard. The poor mayor probably wakes up every day wondering if she's going to be eaten by a rogue sea creature, or trapped in a SpongeBob and Patrick-fueled disaster. Honestly, you can't really blame her for hiding in her office. But here's the thing. Someone has to be in charge, right? And while the mayor may not be the most effective leader, she's what Bikini Bottom's got. It's like a pick-your-poison situation where the options are slim and none of them are great. So what does she do? She plays the part. She smiles, she waves, she pretends everything is under control, even as the town collapses around her. Because in the end, that's the best way to survive in Bikini Bottom. Now if you thought the regular mayor was a piece of work, wait until you hear about the green mayor. That's right, there's another figure in the mix, and this one is even more mysterious. The Green Mayor appears in various episodes of SpongeBob, and just like his counterpart, he's not exactly a model of efficiency. But what makes him interesting is the bizarre conspiracy theories surrounding him. Some say he's the true ruler of Bikini Bottom, pulling strings behind the scenes while the official mayor distracts the public with her ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Others believe he's just a one-off gag character, but where's the fun in that? Let's dive deep into the Green Mayor conspiracy and see if we can figure out what he's really up to. First off, let's establish who the Green Mayor is, or at least what we know about him. In the few appearances he makes, he seems to have that old-timey gangster vibe. And there's some similarity to the regular mayor, but something's off. Maybe it's the fact that he's green, which in Bikini Bottom could mean just about anything. Or maybe it's the way he pops up in the most random of places. One minute he's in charge of a local event, and the next he's nowhere to be found. Sounds a little familiar, right? But here's where the theory gets juicy. What if the Green Mayor is the real power behind the throne? What if the regular mayor is just a puppet, while the Green Mayor operates from the shadows? Some fans speculate that the Green Mayor represents a darker side of Bikini Bottom, one that's more concerned with controlling the town's chaos than actually fixing it. Think about it. The Green Mayor is rarely seen in public, and when he does show up, it's usually during times of weirdness. It's almost like he appears when things are about to go off the rails, as if he's orchestrating the madness. There's also the idea that the Green Mayor is part of some secret council, a hidden group of leaders who oversee Bikini Bottom without the public's knowledge. We've seen glimpses of secret societies in the show before. Anyone remember the mysterious International Justice League of Super Acquaintances? So it's not too far-fetched to imagine that Bikini Bottom has its own version of a shadowy government. Maybe the Green Mayor is a member of this group, quietly ensuring that the chaos in Bikini Bottom stays just chaotic enough to keep the citizens distracted. And speaking of distractions, have you ever noticed how the Green Mayor always seems to show up when things are already going haywire? It's almost as if he thrives on the chaos, using it as a cover for his real operations. Maybe he is the one pulling the strings behind all the bizarre events. The jellyfish invasions, the giant worm attacks, and the seemingly endless stream of town-wide disasters. What if all of this is a part of a larger plan to keep the citizens in Bikini Bottom in a perpetual state of confusion? After all, it's a lot easier to control people when they're too busy dodging jellyfish stings to notice what's really going on. And what's his endgame? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Maybe the Green Mayor is after power. Real power. The kind that comes from keeping a town in constant disarray. Or maybe he's just having fun watching the madness unfold. Either way, it's clear that the Green Mayor is more than just a random character thrown into the mix. He's a part of something bigger, something much more sinister. Here's the real twist. What if the Green Mayor isn't just a behind-the-scenes manipulator? What if he's actually part of Bikini Bottom's natural order? Think about it. This is a town where chaos is the norm, where every other day brings a new disaster and the citizens just have accepted this as their reality. Maybe the Green Mayor is less of a villain and more of a force of nature. He doesn't need to control the town because the town is in chaos and he's just riding the wave. It's a theory, sure, but it would explain why nothing ever really changes in Bikini Bottom. The Green Mayor isn't fighting the chaos, he's embracing it. And in a town like that, maybe that's exactly the kind of leader they need. After all, what good would a traditional mayor do in a place where buildings collapse on a weekly basis? The Green Mayor might just be the perfect representation of Bikini Bottom's absurdity. A leader who doesn't try to fix the madness, but instead lets it run its own course. It's a wild idea, but then again, so is everything about this town. So what do we make of the Green Mayor? Is he the true ruler of Bikini Bottom, pulling the strings from the shadows? Or is he part of some secret society, keeping the chaos in check just enough to maintain control? Or is he simply just a reflection of the town itself? A figure who thrives in madness and embraces the absurdity of life under the sea. Whatever the answer, one thing's for sure, the Green Mayor is far more than just a background character. He's a key part of the Bikini Bottom puzzle, and figuring out his role might just be the key to understanding how this underwater madness really works. Now that we've explored the chaotic leadership and mysterious figures in Bikini Bottom, it's time to dive into one of the most intriguing theories out there. The idea that greed is the true culprit behind the town's dysfunction. This theory suggests that greed isn't just a motivator for individual characters like Mr. Krabs, it's the core force driving the entire government structure of Bikini Bottom. And when you start to look at the evidence, well, things start to make a lot of sense. Let's start with the most obvious example, Mr. Krabs, a crustacean whose love for money knows no bounds. But could Mr. Krabs' obsession with wealth be influencing the government in more ways than we think? After all, he runs one of the most successful businesses in town, and his influence is undeniable. He's even been known to bribe officials. Remember that time he paid off the health inspector to keep the Krusty Krab open? And if you think about it, who benefits from keeping the town in a constant state of disarray? A guy like Mr. Krabs, who thrives in a chaotic environment, where he can cut corners and rake in profits, might just be pulling a few strings of his own. But it doesn't stop at Mr. Krabs. Greed seems to permeate almost every corner of Bikini Bottom society. Take Plankton, for instance. Sure, he's obsessed with stealing the Krabby Patty formula, but why? It's not just about the secret ingredients, it's about control, about dominating the fast food market and ultimately the entire town. Plankton's relentless pursuit of wealth and power drives him to act against the common good time and time again. And in a town where the police are incompetent and the mayor is a figurehead, and secret leaders like the Green Mayor may be manipulating events behind the scenes, it's not hard to imagine that Plankton's greed fits right into the larger scheme. And then there's the rest of the town. Look at how easily the citizens of Bikini Bottom are swayed by the promise of money or statues. Remember the episode where SpongeBob gets rich and suddenly the entire town starts treating him like a king? Or the time everyone went crazy for a free toy in the Krusty Krab promotion? Bikini Bottom citizens are portrayed as being easily manipulated by their desires, and that plays right into the hands of those who are already in power. It's almost as if the greed is baked into the very fabric of the town. Whether they're aware of it or not, the citizens are helping to perpetuate the system. So how does this all connect to the government? Well, if you look at the way the town is run, or rather not run, it starts to seem like those in power have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. Think about it, the town where greed reigns supreme, why would anyone want to change that system? The mayor, the police, even the shadowy figures like the Green Mayor, none of them have a real incentive to fix things, because the chaos just allows them to maintain their control. And at the center of it all is one thing that ties it all together: money. One of the most telling moments comes in the form of various tests that characters go through just to see how far their greed will take them. Mr. Krabs, of course, is the most obvious example. We've seen him sell SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents, and we've seen him try to charge for everything from napkins to breathing air in the Krusty Krab. Well, what if this isn't just Mr. Krabs being, well, Mr. Krabs? What if this is a reflection of how the entire town operates? Take the example of the greedy test. Imagine a situation where the leaders of Bikini Bottom, whether it's the mayor or the Green Mayor, or even King Neptune, they're constantly testing the town's inhabitants to see how far their greed will take them. It's like an experiment in how far they can push the limits of control before the town completely falls apart. And here's the kicker, it never does. No matter how chaotic things get, no matter how greedy people become, the town somehow keeps functioning. It's as if the government knows that greed is the perfect tool for maintaining control. Just dangle a few dollars in front of people and they'll happily ignore the crumbling infrastructure, the rampant crime, and the complete ineptitude of those in power. And isn't that the scariest part? The idea that Bikini Bottom's government might not be failing because of incompetence or negligence, but because it's designed to fail? The chaos, the disasters, the greed, it's all part of a larger system that keeps the citizens in line without them ever realizing it. Maybe that's why characters like Mr. Krabs, Plankton, and even Patrick seem to thrive in this environment. They've figured out how to play the game, how to use their greed to navigate a system that rewards self-interest over the common good. So the real question is, how far does this go? Is there anyone in Bikini Bottom who isn't motivated by greed? Or has the entire town been conditioned to accept that greed is just a way of life? Maybe the real test isn't for the leaders, it's for the citizens themselves. How long can they keep going in a system that's rigged against them? And how long can the leaders keep pulling the strings before the whole thing comes crashing down? In the end, the greedy test isn't just a one-off episode or a character flaw, it's a reflection of the entire town. Bikini Bottom might be a colorful, fun place on the surface, but underneath it's a ticking time bomb of greed, chaos, and control. And as long as greed continues to be the driving force behind the town's government, Bikini Bottom's citizens might be stuck in this never-ending loop of disaster and recovery. So after all that, what have we learned about Bikini Bottom? It's a town where chaos reigns, where leaders are either ineffective or mysterious puppet masters, and where greed drives almost every decision, whether the citizens realize it or not. From the mayor's ceremonial leadership to the Green Mayor's shadowy influence, and from Mr. Krabs' insatiable greed to the incompetence of the police force, it's clear that Bikini Bottom's government is anything but ordinary. But here's the thing. Maybe that's what makes Bikini Bottom so strangely charming. It's a town that thrives on its own absurdity, where every disaster is just another day in paradise. And even though nothing ever seems to get fixed, the residents somehow manage to keep going, living their lives in this wonderfully bizarre underwater world. So what do you think? Is Bikini Bottom doomed to live forever trapped in this cycle of chaos and greed, or is there hope for change? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more theories just like this one. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious.